Hi, my name's Subhan Asif. I'm 21 years old. I'm a youth worker from Bradford East and I studied psychology at A-levels. And today I'm here to interview Dr. Ruth about mental health with young people.
Hi, I'm Ayra. I study psychology at university at York St John. I'm also here to interview Dr. Ruth about youth mental health.
Well, thanks for having me. So I'm Dr. Ruth Wadman. I'm a research fellow in the Mental Health and Addictions Research Group at the University of York. And for over 15 years, I've been doing research into young people's mental health and well-being. But for the past 3 years, I've been working very closely with the Bradford Institute for Health Research, looking at mental health as part of the Age of Wonder study.
I guess our first question would be, what do you think mental health is? And I'd like you to put it in your own words.
Tricky first question. So for me, mental health is about having emotional well-being, enough emotional well-being and emotional resources to cope with the stresses that life throws at you, so that you can do what you want to do in life and fulfill your ambitions. So with good mental health, you can do well work, you can do your work, you can go out and have fun and do the activities you want to be doing with the people you want to be doing them with. And you can achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah. Ultimately, be mentally strong enough to also do your day-to-day sort of tasks.
Yeah.
How big of a problem do you think mental health is within the youth?
So mental health problems are incredibly common. About 1 in 4 adults experience them. And in 2022, data indicates that about 20%, so 1 in 5 children and young people have some sort of mental health condition. And what's really important is that over half of mental health conditions have started by adolescents, by the teenage years. So that's why youth mental health is so important, because if we can prevent or treat mental health conditions, when a person is still young, that can have a massive impact in improving their lives moving forward.
How do you think the data in Bradford compares to the data in the rest of the UK?
Yeah, great. So the Age of Wonder study is collecting a lot of data around mental health. So the young people who are taking part are completing surveys that include depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and self-harm. And we have some early data from a previous year's wave, and that indicates that in terms of things like symptoms of depression and anxiety, young people in Bradford are about in line with what we're seeing in the rest of the country. There's a little bit of an indication of more self-harm being experienced in Bradford, but the most noticeable difference, again from this early data, is a notable rise in rates of eating disorders in the district.
From the trends at this stage, do you think there's anything that you can pull out as to why there's higher rates in Bradford than anywhere else?
So really, we're just beginning that work. So we are developing a programme of work around eating disorders with experts from the University of Bristol to try and better understand what might be driving that, and to develop ways, and we're developing these ways of improving things with young people themselves. So we're very much at the early stages of that work. And some of that is about asking young people like you, well, why do you think this is happening? So I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts about that.
Well, obviously, as we are young people, and from some of the stuff that you do here, and obviously I do study psychology myself, I think, for example, social media is a massive thing for, the youth. And I think some of them try to keep up with the norms and, might see a picture of how someone may look. And then I think it is really difficult for sort of the youth to understand that you can be your own individual person, and that is okay. And, you don't have to necessarily look a certain way, or, have to eat a certain way to look a certain way. So I think it is just having that person to speak to as well about, maybe you might not have the best diet. I know there's lots of fast foods in Bradford. So I think having someone to talk to is good, but I think some of that is lacking within the youth as well. I don't know if you have any other sort of opinions to that.
I mean, I agree. I think social media has a big impact on a lot of young people's mental health. And I think it's just not even just trends in social media, it's just how life is going on, as in terms of what was going on 10 years ago with the young people isn't what is going on today. And I think that's causing a difference in their behaviours and their habits. And then I think maybe parents don't know how to deal with that because maybe they're dealing with their children how they would have wanted to be dealt with. But I think that's a trend that every parent deals with because they think, okay, when I was a child, this is what I wish I had. And then they're trying to maybe fulfill what they wanted in their children. And that's not matching what the children of today might need. And I think that might be causing a bit of friction and problems with young people.
And that's why I think it's so important that we involve young people in, the research that we're doing so that we're trying to get on that wavelength and understand, those differences and, make sure that we're asking the right questions, we're asking in the right way about the right topics. So social media is a really important one, and there is research going on around social media and how it's impacting mental health, both positively and negatively, because of course, you can find support groups, for example, things like that. So, yeah.
What's the age range of young people that you're researching? What's the youngest and what's the oldest?
So these are young people in years 8, 9 and 10 at secondary school, and you might know better than me, that's ages 12 through to 16. Yeah. And they're going to be followed for 7 years, so followed from adolescence into adulthood. Yeah. So it's going to be a very big, probably one of the biggest studies of adolescents in the world, and it's got a real focus on mental health. That's brilliant.
Do you think this will be one of those studies that are down the line that will be studied in classrooms?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, we work with international experts in child and adolescent mental health, and they're very excited about the research.
I think it's something that is needed. It should be studied in the classroom. So hopefully, fingers crossed, when I have children, they'll be studying this sort of research in their classrooms. So just following on, what youth mental health research has Bradford Institute Health Research conducted in the last 5 years?
So the focus on youth mental health really started 3 years ago. So we received some funding to basically create a new collaboration around youth mental health it's University of York, University of Sheffield and the Bradford Institute for Health Research. And the aim was to take all that mental health data being collected in Age of Wonder and use it to try and improve young people's mental health. So we want to not just describe the problem, we want to actually use that to develop interventions that can hopefully improve mental health in the district. So that's the way we're using it.
Let's talk figures. I'll drop figure here. 800 million. So in October 2022, the National Institute for Health and Care Research was awarded 800 million. How much of that is being used in Bradford and in the Bradford Institute of Health Research to look at mental health?
So I don't know the figure. What I can say is that there has been recent drives to really invest in mental health research in the north of England. So traditionally, the vast majority of research funding, some money, has gone to, London and the southeast. And there is a move to bring more investment into research in the north. And that is partly why I'm here. I'm part of what that's funded. But I think more could definitely be done in terms of investment in, mental health research.
Would you say overall we're heading in the right direction in terms of looking at mental health in youth?
Yeah, I'm an optimist. So yeah, I do think so. And I think that, we're going to be seeing hopefully more of the research coming into schools as well, and I think that knowing more about research and how that then affects policies that impact on your lives and the services, so for example, mental health services that, you might want to access, I think that's a really important thing for young people to understand and be involved in. You know, again, bringing it back to that whole involving young people in shaping the research that we're doing.
So, Dr. Ruth, my next question is a bit of a personal one in terms of what I've experienced with young people as a youth worker. I feel like a lot of the measures that we have in place at the moment with mental health are preventative in terms of, okay, this is how you can avoid feeling a certain type of way. If you're already in this place, this is how you avoid making it worse. Do you think this is the right type of step to be giving young people in terms of advice for mental health? Or do you think we should be taking another approach in terms of like, mental health is something everyone is going to experience. At some point in everyone's life, someone is going to feel depressed or maybe anxious. Do you think that's the right approach? Or do you think we should be taking the approach of actually, you are going to feel this way at some point and this is how you deal with it?
That's a great question. Yeah. So the focus on prevention is about, trying to catch things before a young person develops a mental health condition. But you're right, there'll be everybody at some point in their life will feel emotional distress and that they can't cope. And that is a universal experience, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a strong case for trying to increase efforts to prevent mental ill health in young people. But we need to think more broadly about generally what young people's lives are like now. Yeah. And, really think about, well, what pressures are they under and how can we relieve those pressures? So, you mentioned earlier social media, there's things like financial pressures, school and exam pressures, lots of different things. So we do, as part of the Age of Wonder study, we are thinking very broadly about mental health and all of these different factors that can contribute. So we're doing research to look at sleep, for example, because that's quite an important thing that can affect mental health. Loneliness is a really growing problem at the minute. So, why are young people feeling lonely? What is it about living today that's making maybe social relationships, not as satisfactory? So I think we need a two-pronged approach.
That's great.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Obviously, we are living somewhere, obviously we've got cost of living at the minute, and I want to know, how do you think the cost of living affects youth mental health?
Yeah, I think that falls on really nicely from what we've just been talking about, doesn't it? So I think people underestimate the impact that cost of living, poverty, experiencing inequalities has on mental health. I think that's partly because it's quite an uncomfortable thing to think about, isn't it? It's not a nice thing to think about, but also it's a huge problem to solve. I mean, how can you solve it? How do you solve poverty? But yes, it does have a big effect. And, research done here as part of the Born in Bradford programme found that family financial difficulty clearly predicted children's mental health problems. And young people who experience inequalities are 2 or 3 times more likely to experience mental health condition than those that don't. So, yeah, it does impact, but I don't think that's recognised enough.
I've got another question just before we finish. Mm-hmm. This quote is from quite a long time ago. Keep calm and carry on. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we, as a nation, are very resilient in terms of when we are dealing with a problem, sometimes we bury it and we don't address the issue, mm-hmm. and we just think, I'm just gonna carry on, and then it dwells into a bigger problem?
I think we could all do with just being a bit more open and talking.
It goes back to the loneliness of aspect, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Just have someone to speak to. I think that's obviously ultimately what we'd all want, even if you have financial problems, you might not be able to provide someone with money, but having having an ear to let to be able to listen, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. And there's things, there's lots of things that you can do when you're not feeling very good, that make you feel better. And like you both will have things that you like doing, be it an activity or a sport or something. I think people underestimate the positive effects of doing something fun, you know. So let's make sure we're giving opportunities and space for children and young people to do the things that bring them joy, you know. And I think that particularly young people in Bradford should be really proud of this city and its research. You know, there's a real drive at the minute to make sure that children and young people's mental health is a national priority, particularly following the pandemic. And Bradford is a huge part of that effort, you know, with the research and hopefully which will feed into policies, you know, and be relayed to the government. And I think it's absolutely amazing that so far 10,000 secondary school students in Bradford have been willing to take their time to shape and contribute to this research. So yeah, I'm an optimist, like I said, and I think change can happen, and it is on the horizon. And I think Bradford is a big part of that change.
Thank you for your time, Doctor.
Thank you.
It's been amazing.
Thank you. It's been really enlightening as well. Sorry, we can go from here.